Thousands of children and families in Marion County struggle with issues like poverty, substance abuse, or mental and emotional illness. Many local services exist to help families in crisis, but families often don't know about these services or can't get to them. Unmet needs can result in child abuse, neglect, or juvenile delinquency. The Early Intervention Planning Council, through the Marion County Commission on Youth's Early Intervention and Prevention Initiative, has created a plan to give families earlier access to services in the hopes of reducing the number of children who get abused or neglected or turn to delinquent acts. We hope you enjoy our monthly program, Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities, and learn more about the local services here to help you.
Hi, I'm Shana Martin, Director of the Early Intervention and Prevention Initiative at McCoy. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities. Today we're focusing on Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is April, and more specifically we're going to focus on the prevention of child sexual abuse. We started this show about a year ago and started in April to kick off Child Abuse Awareness Month, and since then we've just been focusing on lots of various topics around how to keep kids and families safe and how to keep kids safe in their community. So today, again, we're here to focus on how to prevent children from being sexually abused, and we've got three ladies representing three different organizations that are all focusing on this effort, along with McCoy and those partners of the Early Intervention and Planning Council. So I'm going to let Sheila Day start and just introduce yourself and tell us where you work and a little bit about what you do.
Thank you. My name is Sheila Day, and I'm the coordinator for the Child Protection Team at Peyton Manning Children's Hospital at St. Vincent. And we have a small program to deal with issues relating to child abuse and neglect for all of our hospital systems. And our prevention activities include Stewards of Children, a new program called Commit to Kids, which is also a child sexual abuse prevention program. And we're working with the Children's Bureau, bringing the period of purple crying to our maternity areas at the St. Vincent affiliates, which is Shaken Baby Prevention.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Sandy?
I'm Sandy Runkle with Prevent Child Abuse Indiana, which is a division of the Villages, and I direct the programs there. We're a primary prevention organization, so we don't necessarily work directly with families and children, although we have a couple of programs now in which we are able to do that. But what we primarily do is education and training, public awareness around the prevention of child neglect and abuse, and including child sexual abuse. And we have actually a couple of curricula that really focuses on the prevention of child sexual abuse, and that is also Stewards of Children, which sounds like we all have that in common. And we have another curricula that we recently incorporated, and that's Nurturing Healthy Sexual Development, again in young children, because ideally that's where you want to start to help children understand and have an awareness about their bodies, and also help parents and early childhood professionals understand more about the protective factors with younger children in terms of child sexual abuse prevention.
Okay, thank you. We'll learn more about that as we talk this morning. Heather?
My name is Heather Wilger-Coleman, and I'm with the Children's Bureau as a part of the NACS program, Neighborhood Alliance for Child Safety, here in Marion County. And my primary goal is to help achieve some of the EIP initiatives, which early intervention prevention initiatives, and I primarily do Stewards of Children. So I'm out in the community training professionals, teachers, parents with the Stewards of Children curriculum.
Okay, good deal. So we have a lot in common, yes, because McCoy, under the EIP initiative, also does Stewards of Children. So I know Heather has primarily taken over that role and has focused a lot on Stewards of Children in Marion County, but McCoy continues to provide trainings as well as another resource. So generally speaking, child sexual abuse, who does it impact? Children, obviously, but to what degree and what percentage, and what does it look like for kiddos here in Marion County?
We all are very committed to prevention because what we do know, and it's been proven by the ACE study, or the Adverse Childhood Experience study, that any child that is sexually abused or has had a traumatic experience involving a sexually inappropriate situation growing up is more prone to just have lifelong issues related to that, because that's a lot to deal with, understandably. Obviously, if something like that happens, it creates confusion, shame, anger, all developmentally. Kids aren't able to deal and process that appropriately, and so they do need ongoing help, and those feelings can lead to a lot of self-destructive behaviors, hopelessness, all very understandable from a trauma at an early age or at an adolescent age. So what we know is that prevention is the answer. And the exciting thing is that it seems like it's kind of relatively new that we're all talking about this. And maybe since like the whole Penn State situation of how does this happen, we know now that things like that happen, and we can look back and say, you know, we need to have professional dialogue. We need to, as an organization or as a school or as a college, say, you know, how are we all behaving here, and let's make sure nothing inappropriate happens on our watch. So that's certainly what we feel that is important, because just one less child that has to grow up with that burden associated with it is what we're all here for.
Yeah, and in 2012, I think there were over 500 substantiated cases of child sexual abuse in Marion County, which means that we know then there were 500 children that were sexually abused that we know about. And we also know that child sexual abuse is much underreported. So there are children that are being impacted or have been impacted by sexual abuse that we don't know about and may never know about, despite the fact that those children probably are having challenges or acting out in school, maybe doing other things that are, you know, the signs and the symptoms of that. But those of us who aren't educated and don't know those signs kind of miss that, or may think it's lots of other stuff.
We also know that 1 in 10 children will before their 18th birthday will be unfortunately sexually abused. So and that's a national statistic. And we also know that the CDC recently released a report that 1 in 6 girls here in the state of Indiana will also be sexually abused before her 18th birthday as well. So it's a very important topic, and if, like Sheila was saying, if anything we can do to prevent that from happening, I think is really important. And it takes us all to be aware of the signs, the symptoms, to be asking those right questions so we can help protect our children.
And what are some of the signs? So if somebody's watching this today thinking, oh, maybe I should be paying more attention to my, child or children, what are some signs that would cause concern?
Well, there's emotional and behavioral signs. One thing to keep in mind about signs, though, is that it's not always a guarantee that this is happening to your child, but it's one of the things. Child sexual abuse is definitely one of the things that we need to consider. But there can be physical signs, which often aren't the most common, but sores or bruising around the mouth, the private areas. Also emotional signs, and feel free to kind of chime in, ladies, could be
premature knowledge
about sexual acts.
Yeah. Although again, that with the media and such, even that doesn't necessarily mean, perhaps what it used to, prior to the age of the internet and such. But it's something that would raise maybe some alarm bells if you have a preschooler, especially if they're describing in detail or acting out in a behaviorally sexualized manner. So,
or maybe it's a family member or someone the family knows, because often, unfortunately, it is someone the family knows. I think the statistics around 90% of perpetrators are someone the family knows and trusts. If all of a sudden they seem really withdrawn to that person, then they're showing signs of being uncomfortable around that person. That withdrawal, feeling withdrawn, bedwetting. But on the other side of the coin, though, something we often don't think about is that they can seem like they're really trying to do everything perfect, trying to really just strive to excel at school or something like that. So,
or saying something like, I just want to be with, so-and-so, and they're my, we do special things together, and we have our own things that we do, or our own secrets, or anything like that, where you'd think, why is this friend of the family or family member spending exclusive time with one child and not including the parents or other people in the family, and the child may not see anything wrong with that, and it may be saying it in a positive way, but it may send up some warning signs for you as a parent to say, why all of a sudden is Uncle John paying so much attention to one child in the family? That would certainly be concerning.
I think you bring up a great point too. I always say that it's really important to trust our gut. It's very rare that our gut leads us wrong. So if you have that gut feeling, it's always, I think, perfectly okay to have that conversation with your child, just to have some open-ended questions about telling me about that relationship with that person, or tell me what's going on, or something like that.
Because all great points, wonderful points. And things to highlight is that, I think we spend a lot of time teaching our kids about stranger danger, but the reality is when it comes to sexual abuse is that it is 90% of the time the kids know their abuser, the family knows the abuser and trust them, so we just have to be mindful of that, and it's really important to have those conversations with the kids because these are people that we trust, and they are people who may be spending time with our kids, but if they're spending a lot of time with our kids, showing our kids a lot of attention, or one child in particular, that's really something to be concerned about. So what kind of conversations should parents be having with their children to help prevent sexual abuse from happening, or if something were to happen, kids would feel comfortable to tell and to talk about it?
I think we all agree that you start early.
Yep.
And it doesn't even have to necessarily be a talk about sexual abuse, but just, really being open and honest with your children, calling the body parts by the correct names and not cute little nicknames. You don't want to do that. One, it helps to protect the child, or heaven forbid, if something happens, they will be able to describe what occurred and where and how it happened. But we don't want children to grow up with that sense of shame about their body parts. So starting very young, just using the terms that are correct, and that just ingrains in that child that it's something, okay, this is my part, and this is what we do, and helping that child to understand even that kind of thing can help instill boundaries with that child.
And when you say proper body terminology, we're talking about penis and vagina.
Correct.
I want to go ahead and put those words out there and say them, because
Breasts.
there's always breasts, anus.
Correct.
I mean, there's proper body terms, because when I do a training and say that, there's always those people who kind of cringe, and because they're not comfortable as adults. We're not comfortable using those terms, which means we teach our kids cute little names, which is hurtful, can be hurtful to them. So using the words penis, vagina, breast are really, really important.
And it's no different than, saying this is my arm, these are my eyes. It's a body part. So,
And I agree with Sandy that when you have those open dialogues, you're kind of trying to prevent anything. You're wanting your child to be able to come to you with any problem. For example, when my kids were teenagers, I'd worry about maybe they'd get in a dating situation that was very controlling or manipulative, or I think a few things to remember are not to tie it, like if there's a news story on about a kidnapping, that's probably not the time for a little child to say, you don't want to tie it to something that's happening, saying, oh, there's a kidnapping, this and this and this, because that can be scary. You want to be just at maybe random times in the car, say, if anyone asks you to ever keep a secret or says things to you that you feel like you're not sure, why they're saying it, you can always come to me with anything. And nothing, I think it's real important for kids to know nothing's too big that we can't get through, because there's all kinds of issues. Kids, can feel this, maybe it's suicide prevention, it's, dating violence prevention. It's all that if you have a situation that you kind of feel trapped or you feel scared, you can always come to me and we'll figure it out. And I think those just kind of open-ended general questions, because I think sometimes kids make things scary and think there's no one will understand, or they've been told by the perpetrator, that something bad will happen. And maybe if they have it in the back of their mind, but my mom said that, we'll be able to figure anything out. Those are good messages to repeat over time in different ways, I think.
The analogy I kind of like to use is, I think it's safety planning, and when we're having these conversations with our youth, and I think it's parallel to, we talk about what to do if the home catches on fire, or if there's a flood or a tornado. We practice those things to where it almost becomes ingrained and routine in us. And I think that having these conversations and with the children is just another form of safety planning and being proactive.
I would agree. So what should a person do if they suspect that a child is being sexually abused?
Report it.
Yeah.
Okay, report it.
State of Indiana,
Absolutely.
every single one of us is a mandated reporter, so it's really important to pick up the phone and call the Department of Child Services.
Okay. And the number for the Department of Child Services is 1-800-800-5566. So
5556.
5556. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So 1-800-800-5556. Okay.
Correct.
I knew there were a lot of fives and a six or two in there. So, and yes, and that is the Department of Child Services. That is their statewide hotline. So no matter where folks are, if they have a concern that a child is being sexually abused or neglected or abused in any way, then that's who they should call. Okay.
Or law enforcement.
Or law enforcement.
Yeah, it's, and this really is an important point. We've come a long way in the last several years with regard to investigating child sexual abuse, and Department of Child Services, law enforcement, they have very specialized interviewers. And we really need to leave it to those professionals because we also don't want to be re-victimizing the child, the age of the child, all this taken into consideration. So it really is important to let those individuals do the investigating and the interviewing.
Okay. So what happens if a child were to disclose, to me? How should I respond? What should I say? What should I do? Of course, I need to report it, but what should I say or do with that child who's standing in front of me telling me this information?
I believe you, it's not your fault.
Remain calm.
Yeah, remain
it's really
calm.
important not to overreact.
Okay. The hardest part?
Yes, because there's a lot of feelings that may conjure up inside of us when that's disclosed, but it's really important because that could shut the child down if we're overreacting.
Okay.
Or make promises. I'm
Right.
going to make sure
Yes.
that person is, never around children again, or I'm going to make sure this or that happens, because there's so much involved. If there's a situation, in so many agencies, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So trying just to kind of be present, I think, like you're saying, in a non-judgmental, neutral, so the child really doesn't feel that in any way it's their fault, and that they're very brave for having the courage to talk.
And then it's not our role to be investigators.
Right,
I think that's the
absolutely.
other thing I impress upon people, because I think there's this notion that I have to know it happened for sure before I
Yeah.
can call and report it.
Yep.
Because I don't want to be wrong, or I don't want to tear this family apart, or all of these things. I think that everybody who's been in a situation where they have to report thinks about. But it's really our role to just take the information and then share that and pass it along to DCS or law enforcement, and then let them take it from there. But it's really not our job as a person that a child may trust to tell, to know all of the details and to get all of the information for a lot of different reasons, but that's really not our role. So,
And counseling, I think, and obviously this would be in the short-term future after the reporting and such, but it's also important for families to ensure that child receives some kind of counseling or professional intervention, because even little ones can engage in play therapy.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not talk therapy, they can engage in play therapy and still work out a lot of issues. But, Sheila was talking about earlier about some of the impacts that sexual abuse can have on children lifelong. But if a child is told that they are believed, if they're told it's not their fault, if all of these other things take place, counseling, then many children who are sexually abused go on to lead perfectly normal lives. So those initial few minutes really can be the long-lasting impact. So, that's important to
yeah, that is really important.
well.
Thank
Children
you.
are very resilient.
As long as the adults do
Yes.
their part
Exactly.
and do their role and continue to help protect, prevent, and keep safe moving forward.
I wanted to kind of go back to the reporting part, is to always really reiterate the believing the child part, because it's very, very rare that false reporting occurs. I think that's an important point to bring up.
Yes, because I think that's still probably a myth out there that kids make this up, but the reality is that kids don't wake up one day and decide to accuse somebody of sexually abusing them. So when kids report, it's because something is happening. So tell us a little bit about what each one of your organizations is doing. I know we've talked a little bit about Stewards of Children, so we can talk in more detail about Stewards of Children and how a person may access the Stewards of Children training. But I also know your organizations are doing other things in the community and providing other resources. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? I don't care who goes first. But
I can go first. So I'm part of, once again, Children's Bureau. We're a statewide agency. We do a variety of services throughout the state, but primarily I'm under the umbrella of the Neighborhood Alliance for Child Safety. It's a prevention program. Families can get involved through self-referral or referrals from other agencies and programs, but it's to help families identify goals to work towards self-sufficiency or work towards parenting skills, different things like that to help them achieve those self-identified goals. My role, I'm the early intervention I have a long title. Early Intervention Training and Education Coordinator. It's a mouthful. But so my primary role is to facilitate the Stewards of Children training, and then also another EIP initiative is the Race for Resource event, which is on May 29th, and it's a provider-to-provider fair that I'm looking forward to.
so Stewards of Children, how long is the curriculum? How do people access it? Is there a cost? Is it free? Where does it happen?
Here in Marion County, it is free. The trainings I provide are free. The best way to kind of know about the trainings that are going on around the community is to go to childrensbureau.org/Stewards of Children. That tells all the available kind of public dates that we have open. If people want to set up a training with me, they can email at stewards@childrensbureau.org, or they can call 924-6203.
Okay, thank you. Sandy?
Also, Stewards of Children, common theme here.
But you guys are statewide.
We are
able to travel throughout
statewide. That's
the state
why we are
to do Stewards.
so thankful for Heather and Sheila and Shayna. So essentially, again, happy to provide a stewards training if Heather, Sheila, and Shayna aren't able to, and our website is www.pcain.org. We also have a couple of more curricula that are geared toward sexual abuse prevention. One is the Nurturing Healthy Sexual Development in Young Children, which is essentially we're trained to teach little preschoolers, about their bodies and that kind of thing. But primarily for us, we like to reach out to parents and early childhood professionals, and it's a pretty simple curricula in terms of just basic understanding about what's natural, healthy sexual behavior in young children. Some definitions about sexual abuse, and very similar to Stewards, obviously. Because ideally the research has all come from the same place. We also have one on human trafficking prevention. We've been partnering with the Julian Center and with a number of organizations throughout the state, as well as the Attorney General's office, around human trafficking and sexual exploitation, because there's a lot of myths around that as well. So, we're happy to provide that, or again, pass along to the Attorney General's office or the Julian Center. A lot of people are trained in that program.
Okay, thank you.
Well, at Peyton Manning Children's Hospital, we, obviously we kind of started in this arena right around 2008, and really wanted to be a good community partner with all of your wonderful organizations. And our passion came out of seeing kids that were abused, for medical evaluations, and so we wanted to partner with, because it sure takes all of us. It's a lot. So we have been working with the Stewards of Children and other programs, and we recently added one more program to our toolkit called Commit to Kids, and it is a little different than Stewards of Children in that it's a step-by-step manual that contains some specific strategies that may say, at the Children's Bureau, we may recommend that you do A, B, and C, and here's a sample code of conduct, and just kind of a ready-made policy manual, if you will. So it's a really good complement to the Stewards of Children program. It's just another tool out there because, and we adopted that program from the Canadian Center for Child Protection. It's been used in Canada for a while and in Vermont. And so we just thought it's one more thing to bring to our state that we all have as many options available. We do have a training at the Children's Museum on June 21st in the morning for anyone who's interested in that. Okay. And then we're just kind of brainstorming right now how to get the word out to the schools a lot, because the schools have a new there's a Senate bill that says all educators should get some kind of training in child sexual abuse prevention, and Stewards of Children is recommended, and or Commit to Kids is on the website. So we kind of just try to, there's hopefully more and more a demand for these trainings, and so all of us trying to put our resources together and be as helpful as possible. We're just happy to be able to collaborate on this important issue.
Yeah, I like it too. I like the fact that there are 4 organizations that are sitting here talking about this topic, but we're all working together to get the information out there and to educate folks and to educate other professionals as well as parents, because all of these curriculums are available for both parents and professionals, and in some cases they can be available to kiddos too, that can be implemented as well. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's great that we're all working together, and certainly, unfortunately, there's enough need at this point. But I know I read a study not too long ago that says the efforts around the country are helping, that the numbers of child sexual abuse are decreasing, and it is because of all the prevention efforts. So just encourage, the folks that are viewing to get in contact with one of us sitting here today to try to take advantage of the free Stewards of Children trainings, the Commit to Kids training, the Nurturing
Healthy Sexual Development. I know it's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. And then Stewards of Children we offer in Spanish.
Yes.
We have facilitators who are in Spanish. The full curriculum is in Spanish, so I know we're working hard to really get that out into the Spanish-speaking community as well, because this is just important information that all of us need to know. I'm a social worker and went through 2 years of getting my master's degree, and there was never a focus on prevention. As a matter of fact, I thought I was going to do therapy for kids who were sexually abused, and all of it was on treatment and not on prevention. And the first time I saw Stewards of Children, I thought, wow, this is really good stuff. It's really important. It's practical information that anybody can take, walk out of a training, and apply it. My poor children, when I picked them up from school after doing the Stewards of Children training, I'm like, how was your day? Anybody touch you? Make you feel uncomfortable? Is everything okay? Let's have, it always triggers me to have these discussions, and I think that's really, really important. So I appreciate you ladies being here today and for sharing all of this great information. And again, just a lot of resources in the community. So nobody has an excuse for not becoming educated about child sexual abuse. It's 2 hours, 3 hours at the most, 3 hours at the most of your time to better protect children. And I just think that if given the choice from keeping my kids safe for a lifetime or 3 hours, I'm going to take the 3 hours. And if that means I have to find a babysitter or whatever it may be, it's really worth it to make sure that my kids are kept safe. So again, I appreciate you ladies being here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning into another episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. Thank you.